Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, anywhere in the world. We're really happy you're joining us. My name's Terrence O'Hanlon. I'm the CEO and publisher at Reliability Web and Uptime Magazine. I'm the executive producer for MaximoWorld and the International Maintenance Conference, co-located with the Reliability 4.0 Digital Transformation Conference. And I am so excited about today. We all hear buzzwords about digital transformation, cloud computing, IoT, and sometimes it's a little esoteric where we're going to be applying this. Today, we're going to talk all about Spot, your new inspector. If you haven't seen Spot, it's the robot dog that is making a sensation certainly across the industrial social media space, but probably the general social media space. Spot is a semi-autonomous, agile mobile robot capable of leak detection, infrared inspection, gauge reading, meter reading, visual inspection, so much more. And it's time for us to take a look at how we might be able to keep the humans on our team a little bit safer and be a little more effective with the inspections that we have to do. So without any further ado, I'm glad to turn it back over to Morabad. I want to tell you I'm here moderating this, and we've got time for some questions later on. So hang on, buckle your seatbelt, and imagine everything that you're about to see. Imagine it inside your plant, what you could do. Maura, thank you very much.
Well, I'm so excited. Doggies, if you know me, you know that's my passion.
Maura, do I know you? Look what I brought. I brought a little treat for Spot.
I think Spot will love it. I'm looking forward to see it at MaximoWorld in August in Orlando, Florida. We'll talk about that in a moment. But we want to welcome you. I see colleagues from us from Middle East, Latin America, United States, Canada, Europe connecting today. So thank you very much for being from around the world. We're having an amazing talk today with Spot, the dog robot. So we're looking forward to the conversation today. Something that we want to let you know is we're using GoToWebinar. That means that at any given time, feel free to send us your comments, opinions, and of course, questions for Spot, for Paul Cisternelli and the presenters today. So feel free to do so. Also, we want to invite you to take a look at the handout section today. Feel free to download the Convince Your Boss PDF and MaximoWorld Conference brochure PDF as well. So do that. You can drag it to your computer directly and you can have it there. So just make sure you do that and stay until the end because we will have surprises. Terrence, back to you.
Terrific. Well, and I want to make sure that I acknowledge the team at Boston Dynamics. Wow. They are, they've got Spot, they've got all their products as well on mobile agile robots. They are really, I don't know how they like the comparison, but to me, they're the Apple. I'm an Apple fanboy from day one. This is the Apple walled garden of mobile agile robotics. They've just really taken things to the next level. This is not esoteric. This is not imaginary. This is not the thing of science fiction. You issue a purchase order, they'll send you one today, and you can have Spot inspecting tomorrow in your plant. Very useful, very pragmatic. I think you're going to find applications for it right away. We've got the great pleasure of having Paul Cisternelli, who's one of the ones dynamically driving the awareness and knowledge around Spot. And so I won't waste any more time. Let's get to it. Paul, welcome. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing Spot with us today.
Awesome. Thanks, Terry. Yeah, I'm going to not waste everyone's time looking at me today, but we're going to actually dive in and actually look at the Spot robot. And perhaps most importantly today, what I want to get across is, yes, this is very cool technology. No doubt about it. You can look on YouTube and see all this. But I really want to kind of dive into the practical use and how we can drive our ROI. And then open it up to questions if we have some questions at the end. So without further ado, what I thought I'd do is our marketing group had just created a video just recently kind of recapping what we've been doing with Spot in the past year. So I thought I'd start off with a video and then we'll dive into some presentation and more videos later on. So without further ado, this is Spot 2020 from starting in 2000.
Real live robot dogs! one priority is keeping employees safe.
There's nothing that compares to the way that Spot steps or moves around objects.
Traditional robots, it's impossible for them to get where we need them to go.
Spot allows us to conduct our asset inspection tasks very repeatably and regularly.
It's going to increase productivity,
while also keeping our employees out of harm's way.
I believe that the opportunities and the possibilities are literally endless.
So hopefully you enjoyed that presentation. Yeah, and that video is just kind of give you a flavor for what we're going to talk about today. So if you look at Boston Dynamics, we're really an engineering company making sophisticated technology and then identifying use cases for how we can adapt this technology to that. But if you look at the company and we really visualize the vision of what we see the marketplace in the world to come, and the vision of all the founders of Boston Dynamics and the engineers and everyone at the company is really to talk about, you know, remarkably capable robots in a common world environment. And we're seeing that today, obviously, not only with robots within the industrial world, but autonomously driving cars and vacuum cleaners and things like that. So as we project out into the future, we're going to see more and more robots doing very common day activities for us to make humanity a little better and our workplace a little better. In Boston Dynamics, specifically in that vision, our goal is to lead that effort in terms of creating highly advanced mobility and dexterity type of robots. Robots that can maneuver around difficult terrain and then provide intelligence to capture data for us. That's the real goal at Boston Dynamics. We've actually been around for well over 29 years, moving on to 30 years now. So a lot of people don't realize that. They see us as a new company for good reason, because we've actually only been in the marketplace for the last couple of years. For most of these 29 years, Spot and Boston Dynamics has really been working under grants issued by the government in terms of DARPA grants and other governmental grants to do research and development on technology for the government. And that's basically how the company got founded and started progressing. But today we have almost headed towards 400 employees. So once we started moving into a commercial world, we started adopting engineers, a product management team, and marketing and sales folks to start building up a business around our technology to drive into the marketplace. So we're a pretty big company now. And with that, so what I'm going to try to do is introduce you to Boston Dynamics, and I'm going to introduce you to, more importantly, our robots, which are really kind of the star of the show here. Now, I'm going to start on the right-hand side with our robot called Atlas. And these are the robots you probably have seen on YouTube. They do very cool things. They can dance, and they can jump around, and they can do backflips and things like that. However, the Atlas platform is really a research and development platform for our engineers. It is the area where we test out new technologies, new actuators, new hydraulics, new electronics, new software to see what will work on a robotic individual to take that and really drive it into the marketplace. So this is not a commercial element. It is our research platform for developing new technologies. In the middle is our latest commercial offering. It's called Stretch. And as you can see, Stretch is for the warehouse automation. Think in terms of picking up boxes and putting boxes on a pallet or taking them off a pallet or loading a truck or loading onto conveyor belts, things like that. Stretch was just introduced to the marketplace in 2021. It is already adopted by a number of early adopters who are putting it through its tests right now in very large organizations, as you can imagine. And it will start becoming very commercial viable in 2022. And then on the left-hand side is our Spot robot, the autonomous data collection inspection robot that walks on 4 legs and goes just about anywhere. And I'm going to spend the rest of this presentation talking about Spot. So couple of years ago when we started looking around saying, okay, well, we have this robot that does lots of very cool things. What are some of the challenges out there that we can potentially address? And when we started looking at that, and this is no news to anybody on this call today, the large problems out there that most industries, facilities, government agencies have in common is they're trying to gather consistently high quality data. And this data could be diverse data, it can be thermal data, it can be image data, it can just be numeric data, things like that. And it comes from many different places. So the problem of gathering that and making sense of it is one part of the problem. The next part, carrying out that effort to actually capture data in terms of rounds and readings are very inefficient, and they tend to be prone to human error. And the more that you ask a human to do redundant operations, the more likely they're actually going to be to have redundancy or errors in their process. So we find that there's prone to human error. So can we eliminate those errors and make this more efficient? Another thing is what we realized out there is that sites, whether they're an oil rig, oil refinery, a nuclear power plant, or a mining operation, these things were built for access from humans, right? There's ladders, there's steps, there's doorways, there's small corridors and things like that. They're not built for drones. They're not built for wheeled robots. And then finally, when we talk about people, the other way of capturing data is using sensors, right? And in order to do this accurately, most people tell us we would have to put so many sensors throughout our facility because sensors don't move. They capture data in a single vision. So in order to do this properly, we'd have to put so many sensors that it just wouldn't be viable economically. So that was the problem that we started looking at when we started introducing Spot. So with that, let me introduce Spot. And I'm going to introduce Spot in terms of 3 key ROIs that I want to talk about. And you can look at in terms of this, and there's many iterations of this, but I'm going to trust these 3 ROIs and talk about them, give you a couple of use cases. So without further ado, again, Spot was just launched in 2019. So a little over a year ago, frankly, about 18 months ago, it was first introduced to the marketplace. And most of that time, we were in a global pandemic. However, given those circumstances, we still ended up working with customers, employing over 400 robots, and we're actually moving close to the 500 robots in the next quarter that customers are using today on site on a global basis. So within an 18-month period, nearly 500 robots in the marketplace. One of the reasons for that is the robot, and I'll refer to it as the athleticism of the robot, the ability to walk around very cool places. But the other part of this is the customized platform that sits on top of the robot that allows you to interact with the robot, okay? So as we go around, we talk to the robot, customize the platform, and that's what's going to drive Spot. So let me talk a little bit more about this and those 3 different ROIs. The first one is safety. That's a real no-brainer here. You know, can I send a robot into an area that wouldn't be safe to send a human into? We can all think of thousands of different areas for that, whether it's, you know, there's chemicals, explosive information going on, radioactive information, electrified information. It might be a mine, it might be a power plant. Lots of areas where I may want to send a robot in instead of a human to do that data collection. If I can do that successfully, the ROI for safety is off the charts. I'm not even going to put a number on that. Let me give you an example of that we're doing today with National Grid. So we're working with National Grid at their Sandy Point facility up here in the Boston area where I am, and they have a large high voltage power distribution facility that they're running operations out there. When this plant is operating, it is plain out not safe for humans to be walking around in there taking data capture. However, what they do need to do on a very regular basis is do a thermal analysis of key connectors throughout the plant. So as you can see here, what Spot Robot is doing, it actually has a thermal IR camera built on top of it with some computation in the background. It walks around the plant, the facility, and starts capturing data on these bushings up here. And starts saying, are we running hot? Are we running cold? Is one hotter than the other? And that analysis is then being fed back into the humans for further analysis. And then we can dump the information, say, hey, we need to create a work request, whether that's into a Maximo system or an SAP system or whatever your back-end enterprise asset management system might be. So that example right alone, and now National Grid is actually looking to expand this to their New York facility, and we're going to continue to move on from there. The next key ROI is efficiency. Okay, so think in terms of driving efficiency. You know, can we be more efficient in terms of reducing time between inspections, right? So can I create an inspection route that goes on a regular basis, maybe daily, maybe weekly, whatever that is, that I can actually capture information and drive efficiency, because now I don't have to hire subcontractors, or even more important, take my own high value labor and have them do this. They can then be the ones reading the data and doing the critical decision making. So efficiency is a huge ROI with this. An example of there is with Woodside. Now, Woodside is one of the larger global natural gas providers based in Australia. They use a number of spot robots capturing a number of different types of data points. Now, we talked about diverse data. So they're doing gauge reading and leak detection and noise anomalies and detection for thermal inspections and gas detection. They're using multiple spot robots with different sensing devices to capture this data. And they're not only are they reducing the risk, but now they can do this inspection every 12 hours without any human intervention and feed this information into their back-end systems for further analysis. So driving that efficiency, limiting the time between inspection, limiting the time between detection. The third one is predictability. And again, the ROI around predictability is, can I identify a problem before I cause a bigger problem, right? This is what we're all trying to do in the maintenance world, right? We're trying to determine, is something likely to fail? Are we headed for a disaster here? Can we avoid an unscheduled shutdown, right? So predictability and data gathering. And we're going to gather, that's all about information, but not only information, but what you do with the information, right? How do you do analysis of the information, then take action? So with that, I'm going to bring up another use case with the Ford Motor Company. And what they basically do, and if you look on this, it's actually using a 3D scanner to go around one of their facilities, so that when they actually have to do new projects, new production projects, new line involvements, they want to change over existing plants or build new plants, they're going through construction periods where they need to continuously do 3D scanning and then compare that against computer vision models to determine, are we making progress? Are we on time? Has the subcontractor done the work according to specifications? Now, in order to do that type of scanning using a 3D scanner, typically Ford would have to actually hire and subcontract a crew, and the crew would walk around with a tripod and these cameras and start placing the camera down on the tripod, take the 3D scan, do the imaging, capture it, pick up, move to the next station. Ford estimated it cost about $300,000 per scan. So one of these trips might cost them $300,000. So given that type of astronomical cost, Ford is not going to be doing that too often. But with Spot doing this, you can do it much more frequently so that you can detect problems or pay your subcontractors more effectively by determining where you are in the build process. Many other use cases that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to just keep touching on each one of these. But again, you can go to bostondynamics.com for much more. But use cases in construction, oil and gas, utilities, public safety, you know, in terms of search and surveillance operations, mining, manufacturing, healthcare, all of these types of use cases are in operation today. What I want to do now is talk a little bit about Spot and what makes it special. And I'm going to show a couple videos and we'll talk through this a little bit. So on the screen right now, you see 4 different videos, and I'm going to walk through each one of these. And really what this is all about, to show you the ability of the robot's athleticism, its ability to walk around and get into places that you don't think about robots getting into, so that they can get to a place to collect the data. So in the upper left-hand corner, is the first one. And I'm going to show you some simple examples of Spot walking up and down stairs that are simulated into like a plant where you have open graded stairs. So, I'm sorry. As you can see here, the robot's actually manipulating and walking up and down stairs. Now, the key to this is there's no human controlling this. You point the robot to the stairs, it knows how to walk up and down stairs. So as it comes back down the stairs, it can go up frontwards or backwards down the stairs, determining which is the better option. So that's one example. In the lower left-hand corner, I'm going to take that to the next level. So the stairs are nice, but they don't move, right? So the balancing factor is not that important. But now in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see Spot going up a much more difficult terrain. These are loose rocks on a very steep incline, and you'll see as the rocks give way, the robot automatically rebalances itself. So think in terms of your site out there and manipulating Spot around these difficult sites. In the upper right-hand corner is another facility where we took Spot working inside what I would call, the battleship doors, if you will. It's these doors that have, fire lockdown doors. And we have Spot automatically climbing through very narrow doors that have steps involved that it has to step over each time. So if your plant is like this, that has these fire doors and it needs to manipulate, you can have Spot do these autonomous walkthroughs by doing that. The last one I'm going to show you is down here in the right-hand corner, and this is pretty cool. And you're going to see Spot use its added value arm gripper to actually open doors. So in this case, again, we're not driving the robot in this case. We're actually walked up to the door and we plugged into the robot. We said, listen, you are in front of a door that has a doorknob. It has hinges on the right-hand side and it pulls inward. And that's the information we provided the robot. From there, the robot does the rest. And I'm going to stop it there, and I'm going to point out, please keep an eye on the left front paw, if you will, or leg. And as the robot pulls the door open, it's smart enough to use its leg to keep the door ajar while it manipulates the gripper around so they can pull the door the rest of the way. So, very cool stuff. As I mentioned before, there's two parts of this solution, and this is the part that really is less flashy, but perhaps even more important. So down below, obviously, I just showed you the athleticism of Spot, its ability to walk and open doors and do all sorts of things. But what's even probably more important is the open API platform that Spot comes with. And this is where we enable all sorts of data interaction. And I'm going to talk about three key areas right now. Over on the left-hand side is site data capture. So this is where we are implementing various sensor gauges from all sorts of third-party ecosystem partners, whether that's Trimble with their 3D scanners, or Honeywell, or Fluke, or Flare, capturing different types of information, whether that's photographic images, where we have to zoom in, we have a 30 optical zoom lens, whether that's audio, temperature gauge, thermal analysis, laser scans, etc. All of that is incorporated into an API that talks back and forth to the robot. The second part is data analysis. So now that we've captured data, we took a look at something, we took a thermal image, what do we want to do with that data? So on Spot, we have a number of software partners using AI technology to actually do computer vision modeling that says, okay, this is the way things should look like. The image that you just took does not look like this. So therefore, there's probably a problem. So that type of anomaly detection can be done with our software partners. And then finally, over here on the right-hand side is the data outputs. So you've captured the data. you've done some analysis, you made a determination as to what to do, and now you put the data to an enterprise system, again, SAP, Maximo, JD Edwards, name your enterprise application, and take an action. Now, this is where it gets very interesting. So the action could be as simple as send an alert to a maintenance worker's phone, right? Gets an alert on their phone saying, hey, this asset is running hot. Take a look at it. It could be create a work request in one of my asset management systems. In addition, it could also be an instruction back to Spot to say to the controller of Spot to send it back to that asset for further look. So all sorts of information can be done. And this visual here really incorporates what the value proposition of the Spot platform is. And I'm going to show you another video now, if you just give me 1 second, that really kind of talks about what I just mentioned and shows you the value of Spot running in an environment. So let me, without further ado, just kind of show you this video.
Hey, Jack, it's here.
Okay.
Hold it.
Yeah.
Stand.
Look at that.
So, yeah. I'm gonna zoom in and take information, so see that?
Yeah.
And then it'll just get sent directly to you.
You cannot see the video more?
No, maybe you can, but we can't.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Let me try again.
I'm sorry, Maura. I'm able to see the video. Thank you very much. Keep going, Paul.
Oh, okay.
Boiler 3 is a little hot.
Hello?
I'm on my way down there right now.
No, just hold on. I'm looking at the gauge right now, and everything looks fine.
Okay. Good night.
Hey.
So hopefully you saw that. I know Terrence mentioned he could see it. Hopefully the others couldn't see it. If you could not, send me an email and I'll show it where you can see that. The last part of what I want to talk about now is another example of how we are delivering solutions to our customer base. And in this case, we're actually working, this will be a good introduction to Joe Birdie when he comes on. We're actually working with a partner, IBM, in a very strategic way, where we're actually working with not only their product group within enterprise asset management and their AI technology, we're actually working with their services organization to deliver very customized solutions with the robot, and can talk a little bit about that. But when we first started with IBM, what they did is they came to us and they really saw the opportunity here to leverage Spot to really bring not just inspections, but really transformative solutions to the industry. So when we talk about inspections is just the tip of the iceberg. So we're really going to start working with IBM, and we're going to be launching and bringing to market a number of different things. And if you can go to MaximoWorld this year, you'll see lots of that at MaximoWorld. So with that, let me bring up this slide that really kind of gives you a context of what we're doing with IBM. So over on the left-hand side are the various marketplaces out there that have an ROI need for what we're delivering. Okay, so everything from manufacturing to building constructions to public safety, etc. The next column really lists all sorts of different use cases, use cases that are common practice in all of these markets that could use solutions to do more efficiency, to do it safer, to do it with more predictability. And in this example today, I'm going to talk about remote site inspection. And what we've done is we've taken Spot with its platform, customization platform, and IBM has developed a series of tools that they are bringing to, whether that's visual inspection for AI-powered inspections and insights, to asset monitoring, to asset management, to edge computing. And they've actually applied this technology on Spot's platform using the standard SDK and API involvement. And by doing so, what we're driving is enormous value propositions to the stakeholders. And those stakeholders are over here to the right-hand side, everything from, administrative folks to safety departments to maintenance teams, etc. And we're actually doing this with a number of customers right now with IBM and bringing these to market. And the response has been phenomenal. And some of the ROIs, you've probably seen these types of numbers before down below. We're looking to reduce downtime. We're looking to reduce preventive maintenance costs and increase efficiency of repair. So let me give you the example. This is my last couple slides in video. Let me give you an example of how this played out. And it was a very simple example, but a very complex one at the same time. So what we did with IBM is we said, okay, can Spot autonomously walk around a facility and check on particular assets? In this case, the assets are fire extinguishers. Every place has them, every facility has them. They have to be up to code. They have to be checked and inspected all the time, right? So what IBM did is we actually sent Spot around using their visual inspection and data capture and captured various states of fire extinguishers. I call it the state fire extinguisher. Whether that state might be no issues found, or the state might be off the hook. The state might be missing a tag, or the hose is damaged, blocked obstacles, and so on, so on. So we've captured any number of these different potential situations as a computer model. Those computer models were then fed into Spot on its edge computing using visual inspection from IBM to load directly on the edge computer so that the analysis takes place as it's being captured. We don't have to fire it up and use Wi-Fi bandwidth to send it up to the cloud for further analysis. We're doing the analysis right on the edge computer because IBM's ability to load that in their AI technologies. So once we've done that, the next thing was, okay, can we train Spot and the robot and the payload equipment to run these autonomous inspections, take a look at a particular asset, and determine what should be done? And what you'll see in this example, the action at the end of this, if an action is needed, is we create a request and dump that request into Maximo on the back end. So let me run this video a little bit. If I can figure out how to get over here. And you see Spot here, and basically the mission gets kicked off actually in Maximo. So someone will go in Maximo and say, hey, run inspection route number XYZ. And this will tell a signal to Spot that says, get up and get going. So once that's done, Spot will then start its remote mission. Again, there is no human guiding this at this point. The upper left-hand corner is an inset showing you kind of the Spot view, if you will. So this is what Spot's visualizing. And I'm going to stop it right there because during the programming of the inspection route, this other robot that happens to be laying on the floor upside down was not there. So as the robot starts going down its pre-recorded path, it has onboard obstacle avoidance. And it knows, hey, this wasn't here before, what do I do? And it knows how to step over it automatically. You don't have to train it. So it's taking a picture of the first asset. No issues found, does the comparison with its onboard computer, and moves on to the next asset. And I'll just show you a couple of assets. It goes on for quite a while here. But as it starts tracking, it's going to track to the next area. And I want to show you another place where it runs into a kind of an issue. So here it's saying, I'm missing the fire extinguisher altogether. And I'll stop it there. So what has happened is the analysis was taking place here on the edge computer. It determined there was a problem. It said, for this particular asset, 1300, generate a work order in Maximo. After it's done doing that, it continues on its path. And I'll show you one last one where we actually put in an obstacle and watch Spot kind of converse over that again. So very tight spot. You'll see a cable on the floor there. You'll see some barrels in front, and it's going to determine these barrels are too close, so it's blocked by obstacles, create a work order. And now it's going to figure its way out of that area and then continue on its way. So I'm going to stop it there, and actually I'll back it up just a tad. So let me point out a couple things on top of Spot. So here's the robot. On the front here are two different things. One is a 360-degree camera that can do exactly what that mentions. It looks around 360 degrees to determine what's around it, looking at things and capturing data as it goes. So we don't have to move the robot every time. And then on top is a more sophisticated camera that actually allows you to pan, tilt, and zoom in up to 30 optical directly on particular things that you want to take a picture of. And this will also rotate around 360 degrees. And then on top of that camera is an IR camera that's capturing thermal images. So I'm not going to show you the thermal images in this example, but that's also what it's capturing. So that's all on the front end here. The back end is what we call our edge computer. There is just basically technology communicating with Spot saying, now that you've captured it, what's the analysis and what to do about it, which is send it up to Maximo in this example. So with that, let me kind of just summarize up what we've seen today. And again, hopefully we'll have time for questions. And if not, I'm happy to answer them. But basically, let me just kind of summarize this up. First and foremost, we provide transformative mobility, okay? Terrain agnostic, remote access, consistency. The Spot robot will do this over and over again, and we can train it to walk over very difficult terrain. It is applicable to multiple industries out there, not just manufacturing, not just plants. It can be done outside. It's done in mines. It's done in public safety environments, doing surveillance, many industry solutions. That flexible platform that I mentioned, our open APIs that allow third parties to build new solutions and new technologies that communicate with the robot. And finally, the ROI. And the ROI can be off the charts in some of these cases, whether that's in terms of safety, efficiency, predictability, and so forth. Dramatic ROI by implementing this. And as Terrence kind of mentioned at the beginning, we have nearly 500 robots in the field today doing this. So this is not something new. This is something we're working on today with many companies. So with that, I'm just going to kind of wrap up. Here's my contact information, and here's the Boston Dynamics website if you need to get more information. And again, I'm happy to take questions if this question's allowed today. If not, please send me an email and we'll go from there. So
Terrific.
Back to you, Terrence.
Terrific, Paul. Wow, wow, and wow. So, Spot is quantum leap. Spot is transformational. MaximoWorld is going to be transformational. This is just one of the quantum leap technologies that's happening. I mean, while the pandemic has been going on, some developers have been very, very busy in the background, and they're making extraordinary progress. So, Spot is certainly one of them. IBM is moving to what they call the Maximo Application Suite 8. That's going to be kind of the center focal point at MaximoWorld. That is a lot more asset, it's wide and deep. It isn't simply focused on work management or lifecycle management. They've built the whole suite into it. So consider uptime elements enabled basically with Maximo Application Suite 8.0. And now offer AI and unlimited flexible elastic cloud. So there's just all kinds of options. There's all kinds of other innovations at MaximoWorld too. So even if you're not a Maximo user, you might want to consider jumping down because there's going to be a ton of innovation. If you are anywhere near either considering Maximo or using Maximo, there is absolutely no reason not to be at this conference because there's a ton of innovation like that. So we brought Joe Birdie in to tell you a little bit about what IBM's up to, and that'll reflect sort of what's going on down at IMC. Joe, are you here?
Yeah, thank you, Terry. And an excellent presentation, Paul. It's exciting to see, and it's been exciting to work with Boston Dynamics. So it's been, I think one of the messages with COVID is we actually had the ability to either slow down with COVID, or another choice was to double down and invest in more research and actually accelerate what we're doing. So we actually went down the route of accelerating what we're doing, and it's been an exciting 12 months. Despite being locked down in our houses, we've been extremely busy doing quite a bit. If you go back, the choice was to either slow down or to double down and go faster. And I was actually reading a book that was describing the founder of IBM, Thomas J. Watson, and what he did during the Depression was actually invest in R&D heavily, and then also build out more manufacturing facility at a time when everybody else was slowing down. And so I took that to heart, and it just coincidentally, I was reading it right as COVID happened. So I already knew what my choice was, is I'm being the entrepreneur that I am, and being growth minded was to double down in research. And so we've made massive investments over the last 12 months. Boston Dynamics is one example of that. If you remember 2.5 years ago when I first came on stage to MaximoWorld, I talked about a transformation that was happening in both the way reliability was being done for assets, the way the assets were managed. The assets themselves were changing. They were becoming more robotic, more complex. And lo and behold, less than 2.5 years later, we now have a robot walking around doing inspections. So, the kind of the future is now is the message. And there's still much more rapid innovation that's happening as we move forward. At this conference, we actually are bringing a giant. It's giant with a J. And so he's a giant inside IBM. He's leads our research organization. So we're bringing research with us to this conference. So we're pretty excited about that, and to introduce you to the head of our research organization. And he's going to talk about some of the things that he's done, as well as some of the things that we're doing into the future. The second thing I talked about 2.5 years ago was modernizing Maximo and putting it into a suite. And so excited to say all the pieces of Maximo are now in the Maximo suite. So the last piece, Manage, the EAM system that our customers have been using for some of them 10 plus years, some even longer than that, is now included in the over. So we now have a completely modernized suite that combines operations, so monitoring, with reliabilities, things like health and predict, with maintenance, which is Manage, right, which is our EAM system that people have been using quite a bit. And for a long time. We've also added some pretty exciting things like visual inspection. You saw Spot was doing some visual inspection of fire extinguishers. And so there's an embedded visual inspection solution inside Maximo as well. And you're seeing that tie through the examples that Paul went through. The other thing is the digital twin exchange now has thousands of pieces of content. So talking to customers, one of their biggest issues is they needed to digitize everything in their plant, in their facility, in their building, and almost none of it is digitized today. And so the digital twin exchange is continuing to grow in content. Like one of our partners has over 1,000 part catalogs. So if you're looking to have an electronic version of your MRO spares, you can go and download thousands of catalogs from the Digital Twin Exchange now. So pretty excited. We need millions of pieces of content out there. There's even a way to open source content. So let's say you sit at a utility and you build a predictive model for a transformer, and you want to share that with the rest of the utilities. Let's just say you're a nice guy or gal and you want to open source or share your model. You can actually do that through the Digital Twin Exchange. So there's an open source component of it as well. The reason for that is it's going to take a village or a community to digitize anything on the planet. Even IBM being as big as we are, it's too big of a check for any one company to write to digitize everything. So we need to work together on that. So that's the community concept of the Digital Twin Exchange. So pretty excited about that and the growth in that particular area as well. The other thing is, I talked about the technician, and one of the first questions I got with robots is like, okay, as a technician, am I going to get replaced by a robot? The answer is definitely no. And so first of all, those robots need to be maintained. And so there's a maintenance cycle on the robot that needs to occur. The second thing is there's a lot of maintenance that never gets done, and that's the dirty little secret, right, that nobody wants to talk about, is that there's more maintenance work to do than there's actual people to get it done. So I would see something like Spot as doing routine inspections, something that's not very exciting for a technician, and the technician focusing on doing the higher value added of upgrading equipment, modernizing equipment, doing critical repairs. So if there's an outage, technicians focusing on that versus just walking from room to room and looking at fire extinguishers. So doing some of the more routine maintenance through robots, and then doing the higher value added work through technicians. The other thing is scaling technicians, especially some of your best technicians, across many sites. So imagine one technician being able to monitor equipment across 10 sites, 50 sites, even hundreds of sites through remote monitoring. So especially with COVID, where social distancing became the norm, the ability to do remote monitoring has accelerated. And consider this year as the year for remote monitoring, and people really understanding the need to be able to scale condition-based monitoring and doing it across many sites. And then also leveraging your best technicians to be able to remotely diagnose and figure out what's going on with equipment. So definitely interesting innovations in that particular area in this year as the demand for going digital has become more and more important. I think the other thing with technicians is there's this dichotomy of newer technicians who are entering the workforce who've grown up playing video games, and then the technician who may not even want to touch a mobile device and wants nothing to do with it, So as we've redesigned the Maximo Mobile, has a completely simplified user interface where if you can press a blue button, you can actually go to the next thing and get work done. But if you're the individual who likes to jump around and get at information, and you grew up playing video games and you want to see the digital twin, or you want to see an augmented reality version of the asset, you can actually drill in and do that. So there's the ability to kind of get to the information and drill in. Even see what's called the monitoring data or OT data from the mobile as well. So currently that information's typically only been available to someone operating a SCADA or what's called operations typically. But instead, there's now the ability to do that on a mobile. So pretty exciting changes for the technician as well. So that there's a lot ahead for the technician. I don't see our technicians getting replaced by robots at any time in the near future. I see them being what they're doing is being accelerated by robots and being amplified, and we better utilize their time. And then last of all, we get to all that maintenance that we've been falling behind on because we actually don't have enough technicians to get the work done. So increasing reliability, increasing uptime. So pretty exciting things ahead. So excited about MaximoWorld and excited to come see you guys in person. So again, I'm gonna hand it back over to Terry to finish out.
Really, 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 really fantastic. I love the lenses of the future that you provide. For the worker, the connected worker, the connected manager, the connected asset. Just really fantastic. And what's pretty interesting, about these conversations you're having now, versus the 2.5 years ago when you were sort of talking forward. I agree with you 100% that it's now, it's not some theoretical thing. People are happening now. And I guess what I would say is, imagine if your company had it, what kind of cash flow frees up. At some point in time, it is possible. It's an efficiency tool. Something just to look at as you're moving forward with this technology. But I guess the package message is MaximoWorld is filled with these kind of quantum leaps, and they're no longer fantasy you could leave implementing. I'm sure Boston Dynamics would be thrilled if you went to go implement the day after MaximoWorld. So would IBM, and they're both there and ready, as well as a number of other technology partners of ours who are there participating in MaximoWorld. So, I put a little pressure on you because I know about 90% of the audience here, and say, come and see what's going on. This is your chance to make a quantum leap. You don't have to be married to your EAM anymore. You don't have to be married to Maximo anymore than you have to be married to SAP, vice versa. You got choices, and transportation is a lot easier than it ever was before. You got to get your data house in order anyway. Just got a lot of options. Come and see. Like, this is really a well put together A to Z ecosystem to dive into. There's really experienced partners. They've been to, the team inside IBM's been together for a long time. They've got a lot of research attention in ours. So there's a lot of good stuff going on. Again, along with the wider partners we've got coming into MaximoWorld. So I'm encouraging you highly to consider coming and seeing what's going on. Wow, thank you both. Maura, is there anything else you want to cover?
Yeah, well, basically there is a lot. We have a lot of different questions. We will be definitely addressing them, so you get your answers. Special information, want to tell you. Now that you're attending this talk, you're going to get a special code, MaximoWorld MW1021 spot. So this is towards credit for MaximoWorld 2021. I'll include that in the chat. So this is $100 off, and the offer is until July the 7th. So just because you are attending today. What do you think of that, Terrence?
I think you're wild and crazy as usual. So
I love that doggy, and I really want to have a quick photo with him at MaximoWorld 2021. He's going to be presenting on main stage.
Yeah, and of course, fun. It's interesting because it's done in a compelling way that humans want to they don't recoil from it. They're attracted to it. It's very instinctive, very much along the line of modern sort of video games, along the line of mobility. So I think people take to it very easily, and that's kind of the common thread that's going through. I know you're hearing a lot in terms of digitalization, digital transformation. What you're going to find here is a focused thread of a close ecosystem and a wider ecosystem that can make you, in the next week, the next month, the next 6 months, move from some kind of interesting idea to delivering really bottom line sustainable benefit in your organization. This stuff is quantum. You can wait, but it might not be a good idea if the other people in your industry are not waiting. So I would come and see what's going on. And if not, come to IMC. We're going to try to get a bunch of good stuff going on there as well, and really appreciate these two coming and sharing. Paul, especially, thank you, and thank the team at Boston Dynamics for providing such interesting perspectives and advanced thinking in this area. Same, Joe, really appreciate the IBM perspective. So thank you both. And with that, we want to tell everybody thank you for their time and attention. We view it as a gift.
Hi, Terrence O'Hanlon, CEO and publisher at Reliability Web and Uptime Magazine, and it is my sincere pleasure to invite you to join us at MaximoWorld 2021. Each year, the IBM Maximo community gathers at MaximoWorld to share innovation, to share technology, to share best practices, to share data management and governance, and most of all, to share a culture of reliability and asset management through effective use of Maximo. Maintenance is much more than managing work orders these days, and competitive companies are expanding both the breadth and the depth of how they generate value from assets. Top quartile performers realize that reliability, asset management, safety, and sustainability should all be aligned. And in order to do that, you need technology at the center that allow people to add data, to add their observations, to make better decisions for achieving your organization's objectives through your technology investment. If you feel like there may be opportunities to increase the return on investment that you have in IBM Maximo, MaximoWorld is definitely the community that's for you.